Today we're going to break down a trade involving one of the best pitchers of the 21st century. And it's a trade both teams benefited heavily from, and both teams are still benefiting to this day, over 13 years later. This is the Zack Greinke trade tree. In 2009, Zack Greinke was elite. He led MLB in WAR with over 10, and he won the AL Cy Young Award despite being on a losing Kansas City Royals team. After a disappointing 2010 season, Greinke asked the Royals for a trade, saying he wasn't motivated to play for a rebuilding team. The Royals were nowhere near contention, and he was just 2 years from free agency, and the small market Royals were unlikely to afford what he deserved. The Brewers, on the other hand, were pushing to contend, and they were very young. Their entire starting lineup was players 30 years old or younger, and with several of their players approaching free agency, including star first baseman Prince Fielder, they wanted to win now. They made a deal with the Royals to acquire Greinke to be their ace for the next 2 seasons. So here's the trade. The Brewers got Zack Greinke and shortstop Yuniesky Betancourt, and the Royals received 4 young players, outfielder Lorenzo Cain, shortstop Alcides Escobar, and pitchers Jeremy Jeffress and Jake Odorizzi. So how did the Brewers do? Well, we'll start with Betancourt. He became the Brewers starter at shortstop for 2011, and he was bad. In 152 games, he slashed .252, .271, .381 for a 75 OPS plus and minus .1 WAR. However, he picked up his game in the playoffs. He slashed .310, .326, .500 in 11 games as the Brewers took down the Diamondbacks in the NLDS and then lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS. After the season, he left as a free agent. Now, Zack Greinke missed the first month of the season in 2011, recovering from a broken rib he suffered in the offseason, and when he returned, he had an interesting year. While he had some great numbers, including the 16-6 record and over 200 strikeouts, he was really unlucky. He had a .323 average on balls in play, and he stranded less than 70% of his base runners, resulting in just 1.4 WAR, his worst in a full season since 2005. Greinke made 3 starts in the postseason, and the Brewers won his starts in Game 2 against Arizona and Game 1 against St. Louis, and lost Game 5 against St. Louis. Greinke improved to start 2012. Through 21 starts, he had a 1.20 ERA+, a 2.53 FIP, and 2.2 WAR, more than the entire previous season. He also had a very interesting stretch where he started 3 consecutive games, something that hadn't been done in 95 years. This was only possible because he was ejected in the first inning of the first start. He returned to start the next day, which was the final game before the All-Star break, and then he came back and started the first game after the All-Star break. But unfortunately for the Brewers, Prince Fielder had left in free agency, and the team took a step back. And heading into the trade deadline, they were 10 games below .500. With Greinke approaching free agency that offseason and the mid-market Brewers also unlikely to re-sign him, they traded him. In his 49 starts with Milwaukee, Greinke had a 25-9 record, a 1.10 ERA+, and 3.6 WAR. Greinke was traded to the LA Angels for minor league pitchers Johnny Helweg and Ariel Pena, and top prospect shortstop Gene Segura. Helweg debuted with the Brewers in 2013, and he was awful. He made 7 starts and 1 relief appearance, and in his 30 2/3 innings, he had a 58 ERA+, a FIP over 7, and a WHIP over 2, resulting in a minus 1.2 WAR. He also put up the worst strikeout-to-walk rate I've ever seen, with just 9 strikeouts and 26 walks. He spent the next 2 seasons in the minors, and then he left the Brewers as a free agent at the end of 2015. Pena debuted with the Brewers in 2015, and he made 5 starts and 2 relief appearances over the next 2 seasons. He had a 73 ERA+, a FIP over 5, and a WHIP over 1.5, making him exactly replacement level. He was released in August of 2016. Segura was called up to the majors in August of 2012, and he was okay. He slashed .264, .321, .331 for a 75 OPS plus in 44 games and provided solid defense at shortstop. He was named the Brewers' starting shortstop going into the 2013 season, and he broke out with a great year. He finished second in the NL with 44 stolen bases, he raised his OPS plus to 105, and he made the All-Star game. His next 2 years were not quite as good. While he was strong on defense and stole 20 bases each year, his OPS plus dropped below 70 and he barely walked. At the end of the 2015 season, with 2 years remaining before free agency and shortstop prospect Orlando Arcia nearing the majors, the Brewers traded Segura. He finished his 3+ years in Milwaukee with more triples than homers, 96 stolen bases, an 81 OPS plus, and 5.8 WAR in 478 games. Segura was traded to the Diamondbacks along with pitcher Tyler Wagner for second baseman Aaron Hill, pitcher Chase Anderson, and infield prospect Isan Diaz. Hill was in the final year of his contract, and he bounced back after a couple rough seasons in Arizona. He shifted over to third base for the Brewers, and in 78 games he slashed .283, .359, .421 for a 106 OPS plus and 1.6 WAR. Nearing the 2016 trade deadline, with the Brewers out of contention, they traded Hill. Hill was sent to the Red Sox for 2 minor leaguers, pitcher Aaron Wilkerson and infielder Wendell Rijo. Wilkerson debuted with the Brewers in 2017, and he made a handful of appearances with them over the next 3 seasons. In his 3 starts and 11 relief appearances, Wilkerson pitched to a 65 ERA+, a 1-1 record, and minus .4 WAR. He didn't play in 2020 as the minor league season was canceled, and he left as a free agent at the end of the year. Wendell Rijo never reached the majors, and in 2018 he was sent as the player to be named later to complete a trade with the Yankees. The Brewers had received catcher Eric Kratz. Kratz played more than he ever had in his career with the 2018 Brewers. He broke 200 at-bats for the first time in his career. In his 67 games, he slashed .236, .280, .355 for a 69 OPS plus and 0 WAR. After the season, he was traded to the Giants for shortstop prospect C.J. Hinojosa. Hinojosa never played for the Brewers in the majors, and he was released in 2020. Chase Anderson joined the Brewers rotation for 2016. He spent the next 4 seasons there. His 2016 was okay, with a 97 ERA plus and 30 starts, but he showed his talent in a start in May as he took a no-hitter into the 8th inning against the Cubs. His 2017 was very good. Despite missing about a month with an injury, Anderson had a 12-4 record, a 1.60 ERA plus, and a career-best 133 strikeouts in his 25 starts. He again took a no-hitter into the 8th inning, this time against Arizona. Anderson started for the Brewers on opening day in 2018, and he started the season strong, but the wheels fell off throughout the summer, and he ended up leading the National League in home runs allowed with 30. In September, he was moved to the bullpen, and he was left off the postseason roster. Anderson began 2019 in the Brewers' bullpen, where he was okay, but not long after, injuries forced him back into the rotation, and he rebounded a bit with a 1.06 ERA plus and 2 WAR across 27 starts and 5 relief appearances. Approaching the final year of his contract, the Brewers traded him after the 2019 season. He finished his 4 years in Milwaukee with a 38-27 record, a 1.12 ERA plus, and 8.1 WAR in 590 innings. Anderson was traded to the Blue Jays for first baseman Chad Spanberger. Spanberger never played for the Brewers in the majors, and he was released in 2021. Isan Diaz spent the next 2 years in the Brewers system, then was involved in another massive trade. Diaz was packaged with fellow prospects Lewis Brinson, Monte Harrison, and Jordan Yamamoto, and sent to the Marlins for outfielder Christian Yelich. Yelich slotted into the Brewers outfield in 2018, and he was the best player in the NL. He led the NL with a .326 average and a 164 OPS plus. He hit 36 home runs and 110 RBI, which left him just 2 home runs and 1 RBI short of a Triple Crown. He hit for the cycle twice, once in August and again in September. He made the All-Star game, he won a Silver Slugger, and he won NL MVP, 1 vote shy of being picked unanimously. Yelich had a rough postseason, though. He hit below the Mendoza line in 10 games as the Brewers reached the NLCS again, but lost to the Dodgers. Yelich came back and had an arguably even better 2019. He started the season very hot, with homers in his team's first 4 games, and he entered the All-Star break with 30 home runs. He made the All-Star game again. In September, he fouled a ball off his knee and he fractured his kneecap, ending his season, but he finished the year leading the NL again with a .329 average and a 179 OPS plus. He hit 44 home runs, he stole 30 bases, and he finished second in NL MVP voting behind the Dodgers' Cody Bellinger. Going into the 2020 season, Yelich signed a 9-year contract extension worth $215 million, the most by far in franchise history. He struggled in the shortened season, putting up a 110 OPS plus, the worst of his career. And 2021 was even worse, as Yelich missed significant time with a back injury. When he played, his power had all but disappeared, as he hit just 9 home runs in 117 games. 2022 was more of the same for Yelich in some respects. His power returned a little bit, he hit 14 home runs and raised his OPS plus back up to 109, and he hit for the cycle again in May. But given that he'd basically become an average hitter and was not great in the field, and he had a full no-trade clause, Yelich's contract was included in some lists of the worst contracts in all of MLB. Now, fortunately for both Yelich and the Brewers, he bounced back in a big way in 2023. At just 31, Yelich was now the oldest regular in the Brewers' young lineup, and he slashed .278, .370, .447 for a 124 OPS plus and 3.6 WAR in 144 games. And he went 4 for 8 in the wildcard round as the Brewers were swept by Arizona. In his 6 years so far with Milwaukee, Yelich has put up 22.3 WAR, and he's under contract for at least 5 more seasons. So altogether, the Brewers got 39.7 WAR out of acquiring Greinke. They never got the World Series win they were hoping for, and they never even won a pennant, but they managed to keep getting value. And Yelich is under contract through at least 2028. Now, they did have to add a couple times, particularly in the Yelich trade, as Lewis Brinson was the team's top prospect when they traded him, but they did very well here. Now, how did the Royals do? Did they get enough value back for trading Zack Greinke? Well, Lorenzo Cain spent most of 2011 in AAA. He appeared in 6 games in the majors in September. In 2012, he missed time with an injury, but he was able to play 61 games in the majors, and he showed some promise with a 98 OPS plus and 10 stolen bases. In 2013, Cain became the Royals' primary center fielder. He ended up splitting time with Jarrod Dyson as he struggled at the plate with an 80 OPS plus, but he was elite defensively, finishing second in the AL with nearly 3 defensive WAR. Cain put things together in 2014. He slashed .301, .339, .447 for a 109 OPS plus in 133 games, and he stole 28 bases. And the Royals were finally good, making the playoffs for the first time since 1985. In the playoffs, Kane was a star. He made several highlight reel catches in center field, and he won the ALCS MVP as the Royals swept their way to the World Series and, unfortunately, eventually fell to the Giants in 7 games. In 2015, Kane took another step forward, leading the Royals to their first division title in 30 years. He made his first All-Star game, he hit double-digit home runs for the first time in his career, he stole 28 bases again, and he put up a career-best 125 OPS+. He finished the season with 7 WAR, good for 5th in the AL, and he finished 3rd in AL MVP voting. Kane had a solid postseason again as the Royals finished the job this time and won the World Series. Kane had a couple more solid years with the Royals and then left as a free agent after the 2017 season, heading back to the Brewers. He finished his time in Kansas City with 56 home runs, 308 RBI, 120 stolen bases, and slashing .289, .342, .421 for an OPS plus of 106 and 24.7 WAR. Now the Royals gave Kane a qualifying offer and they received a draft pick in 2018 when he left. That pick was 33rd overall and they used it on Florida Gators pitcher Jackson Kowar. Kowar reached the majors in June of 2021 and he spent the last 3 years bouncing between the minors, the rotation, and the bullpen. And he's been awful in the majors with a career ERA plus of 49, a whip over 2, and minus 2.6 WAR. Following the 2023 season, Kowar was sent to the Braves for starting pitcher Kyle Wright. Wright is expected to miss the entire 2024 season, recovering from shoulder surgery, but he's still under team control through 2026, so the Royals hope to get 2 good years out of Kyle Wright when he returns. Alcides Escobar became the Royals starter at shortstop for 2011. He spent the next 8 seasons in that role. His bat was never all that special. He had an OPS plus of 73 over those 8 years, and his best season was 2012 when he had an OPS plus of 96. But he had 3 very useful skills: speed, defense, and durability. He stole 20 or more bases in 4 straight seasons, and he was often in the top 10 of the AL in triples. He was a plus defender at shortstop, even winning a Gold Glove in 2015, and he played in 140 or more games every season, including all 162 games 3 times. Escobar was an all-star alongside Kane in 2015. Escobar was also a clutch performer. In the Royals' 2 playoff runs in 2014 and 2015, Escobar hit leadoff in every game, and he batted .311, well above his regular season numbers. In the 2015 ALCS against the Blue Jays, Escobar went 11 for 27, and he was named the ALCS MVP. In Game 1 of the 2015 World Series against the Mets, Escobar hit an inside-the-park home run on the first pitch of the game. And in Game 5, Escobar doubled and drove in a run in the 12th inning as the Royals closed out the series. Following the 2018 season, the worst of his career, Escobar left as a free agent. He played in 1,245 games with the Royals, and he had 8.1 WAR. Jeremy Jeffress made the Royals bullpen out of spring training to start 2011, and he had a rough start to the season, with a 1.5 whip and 11 walks in his 15 1/3 innings. He was sent to AAA in May, and he struggled there too, and ended up spending some time in AA as well. Jeffress split 2012 between AAA and the majors, and he was even worse than the season before. In 13 1/3 innings, he had a 2.4 whip and 13 walks. After the season, he was traded to the Blue Jays for cash. In his 27 appearances with the Royals, Jeffress had a 1.9 whip, a 75 ERA plus, and minus .6 WAR. Jay Odorizzi was called up to the Royals in September of 2012. He made 2 starts, and in his 7 1/3 innings, he was fine. He pitched to an 0-1 record, an 89 ERA plus, and .1 WAR. After the 2012 season, the Royals decided to make a splash, and they made a huge trade with the Rays. Odorizzi was packaged with prospects Will Myers, Mike Montgomery, and Patrick Leonard, and sent to Tampa Bay for pitchers James Shields and Wade Davis, and a player to be named later. Shields became the ace of the Royals' rotation for the next 2 years, and he was a Chad innings eater. He made 34 starts and broke 225 innings pitched in each season, and he was very good. He received Cy Young votes in 2013 and MVP votes in 2014, and he put up 8.3 WAR. In the 2014 postseason, Shields struggled. The Royals lost both of his World Series starts, and opposing hitters batted .330 against him. After the season, he left as a free agent. Now, Shields got a qualifying offer, so the Royals got a draft pick when he left. That pick was 33rd overall in 2015, and the Royals picked high school pitcher Nolan Watson. Watson didn't reach the majors for Kansas City, and he left as a free agent after 2021. Wade Davis had spent 2012 in the Rays bullpen, but he joined the Royals rotation for 2013, and he was quite bad. Batters hit .321 against him. He moved to the bullpen in September, and he was much better there. He gave up just 1 run in his 10 innings. In 2014, Davis had one of the best seasons ever for a relief pitcher. He didn't give up a single home run all year, and he struck out 109 batters in 72 innings while walking just 23. From late June to mid-September, he didn't give up a single earned run. He finished 8th in AL Cy Young voting, and he stayed just as good in the postseason, striking out 20 and walking just 2. Davis stayed dominant in 2015, and getting used primarily as a setup man to closer Greg Holland. He gave up his first home run in August to Jose Bautista, which ended his streak at over 125 innings without a home run. He also made his first All-Star game. Towards the end of September, Holland went down with an elbow injury, and Davis shifted to closer. He finished 6th in the AL Cy Young voting, received MVP votes, and put up a .448 ERA plus and a whip under .8. Davis was elite in the playoffs, throwing 10 2/3 innings across 8 appearances, giving up no runs, and earning 4 saves and 4 opportunities. He received the Babe Ruth Award for outstanding postseason performance. With Holland still injured in 2016, Davis stayed as the Royals' closer. And while not quite as good as the past 2 seasons, he was still very solid. He made another All-Star game, and he put up a .232 ERA plus and 1.13 whip. After the season, with a year remaining before free agency, Davis was traded. In his 4 years with the Royals, Davis made 24 starts and 192 relief appearances, and he put up a .140 ERA plus and 7.3 WAR. Davis was sent to the Cubs for outfielder Jorge Soler. Soler struggled with injuries and inconsistency at the plate to start the 2017 season, and he was demoted to AAA in June. While he had a very strong year in the minors, with the Royals he hit just .144 and put up a 35 OPS plus in 35 games. Soler had a better start to 2018, hitting 9 home runs and 28 RBIs, and slashing .265, .354, .466 for an OPS plus of 123 in 61 games. But he fractured his toe in June, and he missed the rest of the season. In 2019, the juiced ball was at its height, and Soler took full advantage. Playing in all 162 games between right field and DH, he leaned into the 3 true outcomes, leading the AL with 48 home runs and 178 strikeouts, while more than doubling his previous career high with 73 walks. He received down-ballot MVP votes as well. In the shortened 2020 season, Soler regressed, hitting just 8 home runs and slashing .228, .326, .443 for a 106 OPS plus in 43 games. Soler fell off further in 2021, batting below the Mendoza line in 94 games, and heading towards free agency, the Royals traded him. Across 395 games for Kansas City, Soler put up 1.5 WAR. Soler was sent to the Braves for pitching prospect Casey Kallick. Kallick never reached the majors with Kansas City, and he was released in 2023. Now, the player to be named later isn't some huge star like Trey Turner was in the Will Myers deal. Quite the opposite. The Rays sent Kansas City utility man Elliot Johnson. Johnson was terrible for the Royals in 2013. He slashed .179, .218, .241 for a 26 OPS plus in 75 games. He was good enough defensively to put up .5 WAR, then was claimed off waivers by the Braves in August. So as it stands right now, the Royals side of this trade has been worth 47.3 WAR, and they still have 2 years of Kyle Wright when he returns from his injuries. So my winner of this trade is the Royals. While both teams did very well getting value here, the Royals made 2 World Series and they won 1. And the Brewers, while they've been good, they've been competitive, and they've found Christian Yelich in this trade tree, they have not even made the World Series. And so I have to pick the Royals here. If you made it this far, like and subscribe. Let me know down in the comments who you think won this trade, any other trades you want to see me cover. Up next, we'll be doing what's arguably the worst Twins trade of the 21st century. Bonus points if you can guess it in the comments.